All right, bam, we're live. Let's get some things going. Welcome. All right, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. Come on now. There we go. We're getting there, TikTok. We're gonna have you all on in a minute. Hopefully we'll have a good group. We have a good topic tonight. Change orders are they're a big deal. You get them down, you start making money, real money. Give me 1 second. All right, welcome guys. We're gonna get started here in a second. If this is your first time, let me know what part of the country you're from and what your specialty in remodeling is. We're talking about change orders. Typically what I do is the first 12 minutes, I'll run through a little bit of a presentation, share with you what I've learned about doing the change order process, how to make it money and stop getting taken advantage of. And then at any time, please put in some questions. Anything you want to talk about remodeling or change orders or sales, objections, you name it. You want to make more money? Just let me know what's preventing you from doing it. This business is a lot easier than most guys are making it. All right, there's a couple of you on here. Welcome. Again, if you're new, just let me know where you're from, what part of the country, and what your specialty is so we can figure out how to get you going. You know, big thing I notice about remodelers. I've been in the industry a while, and I don't know if help is the right word. I guide, right? There's many guys that just need a guide, right? You're where you are. Your sales are here, but you want to get to there. And when somebody else says, hey, do this, go here, look at that, try this, move this, do that, all of a sudden you get there. It's just a guide. That's all it is. And that's what we provide for contractors. Kind of like, think of like a Sherpa. If you want to climb the mountain, like K2, most likely you'll die if you try doing it by yourself. But if you get a Sherpa, somebody who's been there before, they set it all up. Here you go, step by step. You just follow us, and we're going to get you to the summit and get you back down. Same thing with the Remodeling Academy. Think of us like your Sherpa. We're just going to get you to that million plus, 10 million, wherever you want to go. I've had people come to me at 3 million, want to get to 30. Whatever your goal is. Some guys just want to get from 300,000 to $1 million, right? Some guys would like to be able to take 2 weeks vacation paid and have their business run fine. You know, move into a new house. I'm not sure what your goal is, but when you have a guide, you'll get there. All right. And change orders are definitely part of that process. So we'll get started. Again, if you're new, just let me know where you're from and what your specialty is. All right, so how do you stop working for free? Believe it or not, in construction, most of the time, let's look at what happens. Client hires you to do a kitchen remodel. You go over everything, you charge, right? You get the contract agreed, you have a scope of work. Day one comes, you start demoing. You rip out the sheetrock, the cabinetry, you start pulling up the old layers of flooring, and all of a sudden you find what? Some rot somewhere. Something was leaking for a long time. Nobody knew about it. There were 3 layers of floor, and now all of a sudden the subfloor is shot, the joist is shot, the plates for the other floor, top and bottom, the rim joist, everything's rotted. So here you got a big damper. You can't proceed with your project of finishing the kitchen remodel because now all this has to be addressed. And a lot of guys are frustrated. This happened to me. I was already behind schedule. I wasn't charging enough. And now I have this fucking problem come up. What do I have to do? I have to hurry up and fix that so I can proceed with the job. And then if there's any discrepancy and the homeowner doesn't want to pay it, I end up eating it for free, right? So that I can move on. So now not only did I not charge enough, but now I'm doing additional work for free. This is a lose-lose situation. This is how you end up losing thousands, and this is why you end up going out of business eventually, and you go broke. There's a better way. Here's how it starts. Before you lift a single hammer, when you're selling the job, you explain to the homeowner, here's the price to do the job, Mr. and Ms. Smith. You just sign right here, and then we're going to go ahead and get you scheduled. And in your agreement, you have a line item that talks about your change order policy. That way, they already know that there's a high likelihood in remodeling that something's going to come up that's not being addressed in the original contract. And when it does, this is how we handle it. It's not for free. It comes with a price, it comes with a schedule, and it comes with a process. So, all right, let me break all that down for you. And I tell you, it's called pre-framing. You put it out in there in the beginning before it ever is a reality. That way, when it does come up, the homeowner's like, that's right, he talked about that. He shared with us that we should probably have 10 to 20% of whatever this remodeling budget is in reserves, and be prepared to possibly have to kick it in immediately because unexpected happens in remodeling. That's the nature of the business. And if you're acting as if it doesn't, you're confused. The only time this doesn't happen is when the whole house is already gutted, or the entire space that you're working on is gutted and you can see everything, because most of us can't see through walls or through the floor. So if there's hidden conditions, you're not going to know. So when you come across that homeowner that has an existing kitchen that you're going to be ripping out, you need to explain to them that this is a very high likelihood, especially if the house is more than 20 years old. And sometimes you can just tell there's going to be issues, right? But you're not certain what they are. For those of you that like to do design work, you can cover this in your feasibility design, because we do what's called feasibility studies, where we will do preliminary demo. Customer pays for that, but we come in, we cut certain sections of walls, flooring, ceilings. We cut that, expose it, so that we can get a better look at all of the framing members, right? So that's one way you can go. All right, let's break it down. Welcome. If you're new, please let me know where you're from and what your specialty is. Otherwise, we're just going to get started. Interesting. It's not showing me who all's watching. A bunch of you in here. Give me 1 second, fellas. All right, again, if damn, something's not working right. Somebody said I'm getting a sign that somebody's messaging me, but I can't see it. What is wrong with TikTok tonight? Give me 1 second. Let me adjust one setting. It says it's still loading. I appreciate y'all's patience. We'll be there in one minute. Welcome. Yeah, I don't know. I guess TikTok's a little crazy tonight. All right. So I'm going to get started. Again, if you have a question, put it in there. So here we are. How do you handle the change order without losing the trust? This is key. Homeowners don't trust you when you don't bring up things that you should have known about ahead of time and you act surprised. Like, would have never thought that this would have been rotted. Homeowners looking like you, haven't you done this before? Whereas if in the initial sales process you bring up, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we're hoping everything's fine, but given the likelihood, a lot of times there is a problem behind the scenes here, and we'll know after day one, right? Day one, your goal for us typically is all demo, ceilings out, walls out, floor up, okay? And then we understand what we're working with for the rest of the project. So understand that the big thing is trust and profit, right? Not necessarily tons and tons of paperwork. Change orders aren't just forms. They're where the projects really make or lose the trust and the profit margin. When you skip the system, you're going to eat the cost every day. You're going to blow your schedule, and you're going to get into that he said, she said with the homeowner wars, and that never ends well. So a lot of you, if you started out good, you and the homeowner are like getting along, you're all high-fiving, they're excited, and then you start having these little things come up, and they feel like it shouldn't be this way, and you're like, but it is this way, and you start bridging, and all this distance starts coming between you. They start getting frustrated and agitated, and they start liking you less and less till they hate you, and then it is all this contention, and you're struggling to get the final payment. All of that is because you weren't addressing things properly from the beginning and guiding the homeowner. You were letting things happen, and you were reacting like a firefighter. We don't do that. We bring it up first because we're the professional. And you don't even have to hear me say it. You can just listen to people. You can go to NARI. They'll talk about proper change order process. Things should be documented in writing and signed before any work continues. There's the Qualified Remodeler. I think that's a magazine that put out issues on this and articles, right? There's a big thing about transparency and documentation in this industry. And when you do these things, your jobs will run smoother. I did not start out with a change order policy, and I only had to get burned a couple times to realize this sucks. I'm not going through this again. So then I had to go and find a change order policy and figure out how to implement it so that it works. And it took a couple goes with the homeowners, and then I figured out the process. This is how we do it. Perfect. And then now when issues come up, it's just part of the process. Perfect. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we discussed this. You knew that there was a possibility. Unfortunately, it's your house, not mine. I didn't do it. Here's your situation. We have to fix it. Here's how we do it. You sign it, you pay this amount, we get started, we move forward. And it really becomes that easy. It's not my problem, it's their problem, because I addressed the proper process from day one. See, otherwise, the homeowner looks at you as if the change order is now your problem. No, it's their problem. So you have to be thinking a step ahead, and you have to use proper languaging. So that ARI that we talk about, Applied Relational Intelligence, this is where you start thinking of change orders, right? Instead of it being red tape, you think of them as your shield. The change order process, what it does is it protects you from becoming, as they say, the bad guy. And it protects the homeowner from surprise invoices. You want a proper change order so that they know what's coming and how it works, and they have a chance to sign for it. You don't send them a bill a month later and say, oh yeah, remember I told you that thing that we had to fix, that rotted floor? And they're like, well, wait a minute, you never gave me a price. Well, like, yeah, I didn't know what it was going to cost then. No, that's not how you do additional work. It gets addressed in the moment, right then and there. So this is how both sides have mutual protection. And this is how trust raises, not fails. So a change order is just simply a written update to the deal. You have an original agreement, you and the homeowner. You signed something. You said you were going to do something for a certain price. Something's come up, and now the plan has a change to it. Change order, right? That's what we're changing, the scope. We're changing the cost, and we're changing the schedule. All three things are written into one form. Change orders are paid for separately because you're not writing a new contract. You already have a contract or agreement. That schedule and that payment schedule, the amounts, that all stays the same. That's why a change order is paid for in full, one time by itself. And it's important that you go over all that in the beginning with the homeowner. There's no fluff. There's no like corporate mumbo jumbo. It's just black and white. Here it is. And that clarity is what helps the process move quick. Many a time, we will discover an issue by 11 a.m. The homeowner is notified by about an hour later that we found the issue. We are working on coming up with the solution, the resolution, and the cost and the impact. And then within usually another hour, they are provided with all the paperwork, the cost, the impact to the schedule, and the description of the repair that we're going to be making. At which point they can either write a check on site and hand that to our project manager, or they can use our portal and they can pay online. Done. Generally, we have it paid for by 3 o'clock that day, and we are right back at work fixing the change order either that afternoon or the next morning. That's how it works when it works properly. So understand that part of our Remodelers Rulebook, you have a change order policy. It's there, and you go over it, right? So you pre-disclose this during your sales process, and this is what helps align everybody. You do this in your agreement stage. This way there's no surprises. You tell them this is how we handle it. You plant the seed. That's what it's called. This reduces the defensiveness later. It's almost like, think of if any of you are parents and you have kids, you're letting your child know how they're going to be able to react to something that you most likely know they're going to experience in the very near future, right? You're conditioning them for it. Your homeowner, same process. Think of them as like your kid. You're preconditioning them. All right. You pause the affected work area. You don't just fix a thing. If something comes up and it's not on your scope, you stop. This is the hard part. This is the discipline. A lot of your guys say, well, I just kind of fixed it because it was getting in the way. The minute you take on that liability and that responsibility, homeowner doesn't have to pay you for it because you made the decision to go forward. You stop. You let the homeowner know, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, here's your problem. This is your issue at your house, and here's how it affects all of us. You don't just fix it. You diagnose it and you document it. You take some photos, you write out a description, the impact, right? The visual anchors, the photos, and then explaining how that's going to impact. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, because this is damaged, it's affecting the structure. We can't proceed with the rest of the remodel because this and this and this. They don't understand that you have to explain to them what is the implication of the problem that you found. This also reduces conflict. And then clients will be more inclined to trust you now that they're starting to understand how it's all related and connected. And the photos help sometimes if it's something they can't see hands-on because maybe they're at work or on vacation. Some of the homeowners we work for are often not on site. We're working on their vacation home, their second home, an investment property, or they went on vacation specifically so that we could do the remodel. So sometimes you're going to have to help explain to them. You're going to need to use proper lighting sometimes to get good imagery. Okay. All right. Price and time impact, it's all in writing. Dollars and days. Just remember that. Dollars and days. You always address both. All right. And then you reiterate to the homeowner, this has to be signed and paid for. No signature, no forward, no work. Okay. Period. End of story. Like, we'll just move on to another project. If you need a week to figure it out, that's fine. Understand that your entire job is now being pushed, because we're not moving anything else or doing anything else until this gets addressed. So you understand that there's a way to say all these things. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we've hit something outside the original scope. Here's the finding. Here's the fix. Here's the cost. Here's how it affects the time. Per our agreement, we're going to pause this area until the change order is approved and funded, paid for. Once that's completed, then we fold it into the other schedule and we just keep on moving. This mirrors that stance that you don't work off of verbal okays. No, I don't even care if it's a good friend of yours, your neighbor. You just don't know what they've heard or what they think they've heard. You have it in writing, then it's very clear. We both can look at it and say, see, this is what was written here. See, this is where you signed for it. That's what we agreed to. No handshakes, no verbals on change orders. Even if it's $500 and you think it's no big deal, $150, whatever, 150,000, doesn't matter. You get it in writing. That is if you want to be protected. You want to fly by the seat of your pants? Have at it. All right. So here's some what ifs. Imagine if you stick to the process. Imagine being protected so that at the end of the day, you get paid for all that additional work that you want to get done in a job. It's a big change for a lot of guys. Imagine if the owner upgrades midstream. This happens a lot too. Some change orders are at the request of the homeowner. Same change order process. You remind them that they added to the scope. You remind them they've added to the days. You remind them that this is what they wanted. You frame it as their choice, their control. So some of you, if you have a lot of homeowners that are enjoying making changes to your schedule, understand that when you iterate or implement this change order process, you will see that change. When homeowners start understanding that every little change they make is going to have a cost to it, miraculously, they stop waking up the next morning with a new idea. Whereas when you don't have a change order policy, a lot of your homeowners, they're 3 weeks into the remodel and they were at their best friend Susie's house and they saw this and now all of a sudden they want that, even though your guys have been building for something different. And they're like, hey, Bill, can't you just change it? Yeah, we can, but it's going to change the design. It's going to change the permit. It's going to change all the scope of work. Like there's a cost for that. So you need to put that up front, and that's going to shut it down unless the homeowner really wants it. Then they'll be willing to pay for it. So anyhow, all right, what else do we have? Record keeping, time, and a tight timeline. You always want to bring everything back to the schedule. And you also need to have some way of keeping all of these records. So whether you take photocopy, somehow a picture of it, and you print it out and you hand the homeowner a copy just to make sure, you send it in an email, and then you save that email in your digital file, whatever. You make sure that you have a copy of all signed change orders. Because what you don't want, I've seen this, some homeowners, let's say a $3,500 change order comes up on a $65,000 job. Some homeowners at the very end will think that they're deducting that $3,500 off of the $65,000 for some crazy reason. And you'll be like, hey, Mr. and Ms. Smith, there's still $3,500 outstanding. They're like, no, we took care of that. Remember, we paid that change order. And you're like, whoa. No, that was in addition. So make sure you save copies of your paperwork, because sometimes homeowners get confused and don't want to pay that last bit. So here's what you can do to put all of this into the AI platform of your choice. You say, I'm a remodeling contractor. This is the state that I operate in. This is my niche. This is my specialty. These are the type of jobs that we normally do. Help me understand how I can pre-frame a proper change order policy where I implement in the beginning and explain it to the homeowner during the pre-construction phase and at the agreement signing, both times. I also need a change order written policy. I need at least a one-page separate piece of paper that we have the homeowner acknowledge. It clearly states that there is a cost to the change order, right? And that there's a dollar amount, and that there is an impact to the schedule. That's the amount of days that this is going to take. And there's a description of the work that's being done for this change order. And it clearly states and specifies that this is an additional cost in addition to the original contract, which you reference. This change order is in relation to or a part of this contract for the bath remodel of James Street or the kitchen remodel of Smith Avenue. And you reference that, and then the homeowner dates and signs it. You date and sign it, or your project manager or lead carpenter dates and signs it. And then you reference a section when payment was received or made. Boom, done. Now you do the work and you move on. Everybody's happy. All right, so that's the change order policy in a nutshell, as they say. Any questions? Anybody have any questions? Anybody want to share anything? What do you got? Anything? Welcome. Luke, welcome. Anybody have any questions about change orders? You using them? You don't use them? You afraid to use them? You tried using them? Good or bad? Anything on change orders? I get it. It's Sunday night. It's late. So change orders are one of the best things we've ever implemented. I can share that from you. I charge a processing fee for change orders. So I would encourage you to do the same. And the beauty of that is you do have some flexibility. If a change order comes up and you don't want to implement the fee, You have the discernment ability as the business owner to maybe, uh, as an olive branch, as they say, to extend to the homeowner. See, here's what I like. When you put that there's a $150 change order processing fee, and then the change order comes up, and let's say it's 3 grand to do the change order, you can explain to the homeowner that, yeah, we talked about this. Yes, it's unfortunate that it's coming up. Mr. and Ms. Smith, this is what it's going to cost to do all the work. In this instance, what we can do as a one-time courtesy for you being an amazing customer and paying everything on time and being very easy to work with, someone that we really appreciate. You're like our ideal client. You treat our crew well, you're respectful, right? So what we can do is we can credit you $75 off of that processing fee. We can credit you the full 150. So that's the beauty of having that processing fee, is it's something that you can potentially credit back if you choose. You don't have to. As long as you disclosed it in the beginning, you can clearly change it. And here's the thing. Everyone has to work to do a change order. Like, there really is a fee because you're doing work. The job had to shut down. So now you're picking up labor costs for your guys because they're not moving forward. Someone had to price this whole thing out, scope it out real quick, estimate it. You had to call around, check with suppliers, get availability of materials, see how it's going to impact. Are you contacting your structural engineer, designer? Is there going to have to be a change to the plans? It's a lot of work. So there's and then somebody in your office is now going to have to enter this change order into your QuickBooks or your accounting software. If you're that place yet. If you're not, you at least have to keep receipts and doing your bookkeeping. So change orders can get complicated, and you have to keep track of all that. So that's why you have the processing fee. And if you're uncomfortable or for some reason you feel like a little bit of goodwill would help, then you can credit that change order processing fee to the homeowner. And what this does is it keeps you from having to discount the fee that you have to charge to do the work. And that's the beauty of the whole process from start to finish. All right, so if you have any thoughts on it, be happy. Would love to hear your comments. Tell me I'm crazy. Tell me you want to implement. Tell me you already are implementing, whatever it may be. What are your thoughts on change orders? Who's in here right now? Brandon, Bill, Don, Marianne. You got any opinions on change orders? Let me have them. What do you have to say about them? All right. So anyway, we use a change order policy. It works well for us. So that's why I share it, and I would say that you should be using one for you. Some guys don't, and that's their prerogative. That's their preference. So, Bill, Brian, you guys have any thoughts on change orders? I like them a lot, because in remodeling, what I've learned over the years is that the only thing you can accurately predict is that you don't actually know what's going to happen on most jobs. And a lot of times something's going to come up that you're going to have to address. That's about the only thing that I know you can accurately predict. You have no idea what you're going to find. We've come across crazy stuff on jobs. So, just things you would never think. You come across, all of a sudden, there's a whole other set of flooring. Somebody decided to glue, screw, nail, do everything possible to keep that subfloor down. We've seen people that have screwed subfloors in 3-inch squares increments. Thousands of screws that we had to deal with. That's like not normal. It's outside of the standard scope that you would be responsible for moving. We've come across a lot of improper repairs that now we have to deal with because we have a permit on the job. That comes up a lot. You're doing permitted work, so your work's going to be inspected. The homeowner, whether it was this one or a previous homeowner, in our area, for instance, the part of the country that I'm in, we have a lot of houses that were built in the 1900s. There's been like 10 people that have remodeled it. Like every 20 years, 10 years, they're getting a new this, new that. And so you'll come across repairs that were improperly performed, have failed, and now you're being left with having to bring that up to code. Sometimes it's an inspector will come out on, I'll give you an example. You might be building a screened in porch, putting a patio addition on with a, or a deck and a screened in deck. And all of a sudden that requires now from your local jurisdiction, the homeowner has to like upgrade their electrical panel for some reason, right? Like the craziest things will come up sometimes. Now, generally you start learning these things as they happen to you more and more, but now all of a sudden the homeowner has to bring everything. The smoke detectors have to be brought up to date. So now they're going to incur like a minimum of $3,000 bill from the electrician, maybe $6,000. That's a huge expense if they weren't expecting that. So you better have a change order policy so you can recoup all that. All right, Luke, where are you from, brother? I don't know if I've seen you on here before. Maybe you've been on here. You're gone. In, out. How many people just go in and out? If there's anybody on YouTube, I don't tend to look over on YouTube, but if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat as well. Understand that there's quite a few people over on TikTok. The only downside to the TikTok, you can see a different chat. Sometimes there's a lot more questions over there. You just can't see the screen. I don't do a share screen on the TikTok like I do on the YouTube. So anyway, guys, I think that's time. So unless somebody has a question, I'm going to bounce. I don't see any comments or questions coming in. Just all right. Let's see real quick for tomorrow. Let me tell you what we'll be going over tomorrow. Give me a second here. Stop the screen. Let me go back. We might do tomorrow's a little bit earlier. We start tomorrow's a long earlier day for me. All right, so tomorrow's day 43. We're going to be going over managing client expectations during the job. So a lot of times I'll talk about what's called the emotional roller coaster of a client. Hey, Alex. Oh, it's yeah, good question. It's just the Remodeling Academy, TRA. Give me a second. Let me see if I can share it with you in the chat. Yeah, one thing you'll see, we put out a lot of content over on TikTok. Most of my videos are designed specifically for the TikTok algorithm, let's say. So give me a second here. Let me see if I can share something with you. So the content always doesn't do as well on other platforms because it was designed specifically to meet the TikTok algorithm. And the content's actually created within the TikTok app. That's what helps it do well. Let me see if we can. Yeah, here's the. Take this. You found it? Okay, perfect. Yeah. So, but yeah, so what will happen is if you subscribe to either the YouTube or the TikTok, you'll get notified a few minutes usually before we go live. Every now and then there'll be a schedule notification. I've been going back and forth about whether I start doing the same time every day, which would probably be earlier. It would be more like 7 p.m. East Coast. The only downside to that is like for some of you guys, that's like 4 o'clock in your afternoon. The late time hurts the East Coast people, but it seems to do better with the West Coast and the Central people. A lot of guys, 9 o'clock seems to be a popular time for some reason, which is strange. I think a lot of you guys would be in bed, but whatever. All right. So, Alex, if you have any questions specifically that you or you want to let me know what part of the country you're from and what your niche is. Well, Alex, I appreciate you being here. Like I said, if you have a question, let me know. Otherwise, that we're going to end tonight's stream. Now, look, if you want to go back and catch the replay where I break down more about the change order, awesome. Also understand that, so I have a group where a lot of remodelers get together and we go over all this stuff in detail. And that's where you get like the documents to implement. That's part of the Rebel program. So if you're finding, look, here's the deal. This is available for anyone. This is free. You get it. The Rebel program just gets people going a lot quicker. And so we have that as well. But this is a good way to start if you're not doing anything else. So I appreciate you being here. All right, let's see here. You do house flips, but you're starting to move over to remodeling as well. Yeah, that's how I got started. I was an investor. Your father does commercial painting, remodeling, so I'm looking to do something similar. Yeah, it's interesting. I first got into this business because I wanted to own real estate, rental properties, and I bought my first couple houses, and it was a nightmare finding people to do the work. I enjoyed doing some of the work myself, so I was a little bit like a hands-on investor. It's not the norm, I get it. And it was exceptionally hard to find good remodeling companies to do the work. However, I always was finding really good craftsmen, workers, just not a good company that they worked for. So that's why I said, man, I could kill it. And the other thing is, if you're doing your own investment properties and you're rehabbing, you're always going to have more homeowners, because this is what we found in our area. And again, I don't know what part of the country are you in? Where I was, I had homes around me. So when we started to rehab a house, we would put up a sign for our remodeling company, like this is another project by, and then most of the homeowners would come over and see us rehabbing the house, see the deck. We'd show the kitchen to them, and they'd be like, "Can you do ours?" We would get multiple projects right there in that immediate area every time, because we would be there. Typically a good size rehab's taking at least 6 weeks to maybe 3 months. So you'd get to know, the homeowners pretty well. And it worked out really well for us constantly. Wherever we did a rehab, we would get more remodeling work all the time. And the other thing it did, this is interesting. This is a little hack or trick. If you're new to this, but if you're doing your own investments and you're doing your own flips, you can bring homeowners that are looking to have other work done at their house. You can invite them to meet you at the place you're rehabbing so they can actually see the construction process, right? You can show them like, hey, this is the house. Literally, this is what it looks like during demo, or this is what it looks like during framing, or this is what it looks like. And we've had homeowners that will take us up on that. They'll want to swing by one day at lunchtime. I'm like, yeah, come on by, and you'll meet them there and you'll show them, and they get to meet you, the crew. They get to see how you keep a job site. So that led to getting a lot of work as well, because other contractors, think about it. If you're only doing work for homeowners, you can't invite like another homeowner to come look at a project that you're doing for another homeowner at the same time. Does that make sense? But if you're doing your own investment properties, yeah, the homeowner can come see what your guys are like real time, and that builds credibility. They can see that you're legit, and they meet your crew. That helps for a lot of homeowners. If you're the type that, if you're just more of the sales person or project manager, like that's what I did most of the time. So it really helped them get a sense for who my crew was, who the project managers, lead carpenters, stuff like that. So yeah, awesome. What part of the country, if you're still on, what part of the country are you in? Michigan. Okay. Very cool. My brother, his wife has some family. They like to go to the lake. They have a lake they go to every summer in Michigan. It's way up, and it's a long drive. But yeah, beautiful part of the country. Yeah, so you have, I'm assuming you guys have similar style houses that so I'm on the East Coast in Maryland primarily, and we have, a lot of houses built from the 1900s up till today. So probably very similar. That's awesome. Commercial painting. Yeah, so one thing to keep in mind with your dad and you, that Residential remodeling, you have to charge a lot more than you charge for commercial work, because you're dealing with the homeowner on site. It's much pickier. That's much more complicated because you're working around, within the homeowner's house, and you're dealing with a lot more variables. So the only thing I can just share from experience, a lot of guys that come over doing, if you did new construction or commercial work and you move over into remodeling, a lot of times your prices are just way too low and you'll get crushed. You won't make it. So make sure you raise your prices for doing remodeling work, because homeowners are more particular than landlords, or these large, if you're doing like a big office build out, whoever the GC is, a lot of times they're much more lenient about, they just expect a certain standard to the profession, whereas a homeowner is expecting a much different level of care, let's say. Just gets more complicated, in my opinion, and it takes longer. Residential work's just more challenging. Not that it's not good, but you definitely have to charge more than, say, commercial work. Awesome. How long have you been doing the remodeling, or are you just getting started? It sounds like you're just getting started. Trying to figure out what to grow, but I hate working for the homeowner. I can beat any price. Yeah. So homeowners is a mental mind shift, right? Start charging more. You may enjoy doing it more because you have to put up with a lot of BS. Absolutely, I can understand what you're saying. It requires, yes, it's a lot more of a mental game working for homeowners. Whereas if you're just buying your own properties and flipping them, that's what I like to do the most. That's easy, right? Because I'm the homeowner. So I'm not dealing with, crazy requests and having to explain things 300 times and just dealing with all the emotional irrationalness that most homeowners go through. They definitely experience a lot of anxiety, and there's a whole emotional journey. And, it takes a lot of personal work to get to a place where you can navigate all of that, no problem, for sure. Whether you do it yourself or maybe you hire a project manager that's another thing you could consider. If you like doing the commercial work, you might just hire a guy as your project manager or salesperson / PM that handles all your residential for you, so you don't have to put up with all the BS. Just a thought. I mean, if you have the manpower and you have the skill set, you can still make money at it. Maybe you lessen the time that you have to deal with the actual homeowner. But I clearly understand what you're saying. Homeowners can be a real challenge, right? Because of all their nitpickiness, all their the consumer's always right, that mentality that some homeowners get. Not all, as you go through your sales process, and if you hone in your marketing, you'll start attracting better clients for sure that meet your demographic. Higher end clients are definitely easier to work for because they understand that time is money and they just want you in and out as efficient as possible, right? And they've got bigger things to worry about half the time than like these little tiny nuances that the average homeowner, bored people create problems. I've never, if I meet with somebody and I find out that they're like retired at home all the time, they don't work, they have a trust fund, it depends, but if they're always at home, that's one of the worst people to work for, because they're bored and they don't have anything else to do but to pick on your work. I like to work for busy people that are doing 5,000 things, right? And the remodel is just a problem they want solved. So let's see, a couple new people in TikTok. Yeah, so how do you subcontract work out? Good question. So in my state, we have to be called what's a licensed home improvement contractor. So once you're that and you're set up as a company, you can find subs. So you drive around town, look for guys working on other homeowners' houses, introduce yourself to the crew, introduce yourself to people at the supply houses, lumber yards, the big box stores. Just try to meet as many different contractors as you can, and you're going to find you probably understand this. A lot of the guys driving white vans, white trucks, most of them are subs. And you just want to meet a couple good crews And before you know it, they'll love to work for you if you're organized. This is what I found. So I put together a whole subcontractor application process, and then I have a policy with them. I say, hey guys, if you work for us, here's the deal. We're going to give you a good schedule. We're going to pay you every 2 weeks as long as you submit the proper paperwork to us. We're going to pay well, and we're going to give you a lot of autonomy. We just ask that you act professional, wear clean shirts, your shirts, but just like a blue shirt, a gray shirt, whatever. Just wear something clean, look nice, and be respectful to the homeowner, and we'll pay you well. So, am I fine? You'll have to check with Michigan. I don't know Michigan standards right now. So the biggest thing you're going to want to do is when you start hiring subs, you just have to make sure that they have their own insurance. Okay. That way otherwise you're going to have to pay the insurance part out to cover their part of the job. So you just want to make sure that what we did is we required our subcontractors to have their own insurance. And most of them do. They just have to submit a copy of it. And they're familiar with this. They basically call their insurance agent and they have them email a copy of their binder policy over to you. And then they make you part of the insured, your company, and then you're ready to roll with them. But you got to do all this up front. Don't ever let a sub start working on a job until they've provided you with everything up front. I would get a copy of their business license, a copy of their insurance, and possibly a copy of their driver's license. Because if something goes south and you need to track them down, it gets much harder after the fact. They're all going to be eager to do it up front to get the job. What happens if a sub leaves a job half finished? Would I have to bring in another? Yeah, so here's the deal. Like if you have a signed contract with the homeowner, yeah, you're going to have to finish. But it might happen the first time you hire someone until you vet them properly. But Alex, I don't know your ability to judge character, and you have to have some business savvy when you're meeting. Here's what I find. The reason we have a subcontractor application process is because that process in and of itself weeds out the shitty subcontractors. Because I require them to email me and then I send them an application that they have to fill out, only the best subs are going to even do that process in the first place. So just by them filling out the paperwork lets me know that they're above average. Then just notice, do they return phone calls? Do they follow up with you? Then make sure that they allow you to look at one of the projects they're currently working on. You have to do this. You're going to have to drive and look at some of their projects, and then you get a sense for what the crew's like, how they keep the place. And then and only then would you move forward with hiring them. For the most part, if you do that process, you're going to find great subs and they're going to get the job done as long as you properly explain what it is and you're paying them fair. If you're doing your part, they're going to do their part. I've never had a problem I've only had a problem in the very, very beginning when I did not have that application process. The first painting subcontractor I hired was an absolute nightmare. Stole $2,500. Did $500 worth of work. It was the worst experience ever. And that's what taught me, I got to change this. That was a mistake. So that's when I flipped it around and had that application process. If you do that, it'll work. Yeah. I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you right now, you might find some of your subcontractors are the best. Some of my subs were awesome. Not only did they do the job, but they would also help find other work for us because they don't. Here's the thing about a lot of good subs. They just like doing the work, like a siding sub or a sheetrock guy. They just like doing that. They don't want to get into this thing, just like you're maybe saying, I don't want to be talking with the homeowners. A lot of subs don't want to do any of that. So if a sub has a homeowner reaching out to them, sometimes they'll say, yeah, just talk to my GC, my friend. And they'll bring you in and to get the job because you'll or whoever in your company wants to do it, right? Handling all the negotiations with the homeowner, the paperwork, the payments, getting the permits, all that kind of stuff, all the red tape, let's call it. So, but yeah, we worked very well with. I enjoy, and the good thing about having subs is it helps you scale very easily. You can go sign several jobs, knock them out, and then if you want to take a break for 3 months because you want to go on vacation, have at it or whatever. Most likely you'll get how it is. You get addicted to it. Once you start winning, once you start making money, landing jobs, it's fun. You want to keep doing it. Right? You want to see how much you can sell. Can we sell more this month than I did last month? Damn, I found this crew. Can I find 3 more crews just like it? If I'm putting out 3 decks a month, can I do 7 decks next month? Things like, that's what I found it was like for me. You just want to keep raising the game. It gets fun, the competition, of yourself, seeing how well you can do your own business. So, but yeah, hope that helps. You go to our website, you can get our subcontractor application. It's in the store. You can go over to the store. We have it. I don't know what the workforce is like in Michigan. Here in Maryland, we have a high propensity of English as a second language, right? A lot of our workforce. So I have it available in Spanish and English, but it's easy if you just get the English version, it's easy to translate. But yeah, and then you have the whole application right there. It's a PDF. You just send it over. I would keep a couple copies, hard copies printed, but you might be at like one of the big box stores one day, or you're just driving down the road, and let's say you're looking for a roofing crew and you see 2 white vans parked in front of a house, and there's 7 guys re-roofing the house. Pull over, introduce yourself, and let them know, hey, I'm a GC and I'm looking for a good roofing crew. Who do I talk to? Who's in charge here? And they'll let you know. Because a lot of times whoever's in charge of the crew might not even be on site, right? I mean, this is just the way the business works. There's usually a guy floating around that runs it, and then there's the guys that are actually doing the work on site. That's the nature of the business. So, but, treat people right, be professional, make them go through a process, and you'll find good guys. And vet them. You have to go look at their work. Don't take their word for it. Please, don't take their word for it. So, all right, Alex, any other questions you might have? Alex, make sure you're following us on TikTok. We're trying to get up to 10,000. It's going to be a little while. I'm brand new to TikTok. Just been doing it like a couple months. So it's going to take a little while. But yeah. All right, Alex, you have an awesome night. Thank you. All right, I appreciate you, Alex. Hey, listen, if you whatever channel you're on, whether you're watching us on YouTube or you're watching on TikTok, I appreciate it. And listen, you can reach out to me now that I know who you are. Reach out at any time. If something comes up and you need some guidance, I'll let you know. All right, and check out our website. There's some free stuff that you can get there. You can get over into our Facebook group and get some more free stuff, whatever. But yeah, thank you for engaging and commenting. And at any time, reach out. I'd be more than happy to offer you any assistance I can. All right, thank you. You're welcome. Good luck to you. Take care. All right, guys, I'm not, if you guys on TikTok are asking questions, for some reason, I'm not seeing them. So it doesn't look like you're coming up tonight. It looks like you're just joining in and kind of eavesdropping, which is cool. All right, fellas, that's it for tonight. This was on change orders. This is day 42. So if you want to watch the replay, go over to the workshop section of our YouTube account and look under lives, and then go to day 42 of 100. And it's where we talk about stop working for free and make sure you have a change order policy. All right. You guys are awesome. Alex, nice to meet you. Thanks for joining in tonight. And we'll see you guys back tomorrow. Take care.